Cool. I think we can kick off. Just to quickly introduce, we have Leibing with us, who takes care of developer relations at Covalent, and really excited to have you over here with for the workshop on querying blockchain data with Covalent API. Just to give more context, this week for the beginner track fellows, it's on infrastructure and storage, and I think this workshop is going to give a lot of more insights how things are working around in terms of data management and like fetching data which is necessary for your dapps out there. So yeah, I think this is going to be an exciting workshop, and I can see some of the Bidler track fellows have also joined, so that would be awesome.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, over to you, Leibing.
Thanks for the intro, Aniket. Hi, guys. So, as Aniket has mentioned, I'm from developer relations at Covalent, and part of my job is organizing hackathons. Part of my job is educating developers on how to use our API, right? And also, generally how to get data from various sources as well. So, for today's presentation, I will be covering 4 things. So what are some of the Web3 data trends and challenges? I'll briefly touch on that. What is Covalent API? What is our solution? What is the Covalent network? And also I'll take you through some of the stuff that's been built with our API. Okay, first of all, I'm sure you guys have already seen this picture, right? A differentiation between Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3, where Web 1 is characterized by sort of like just reading and not interacting with the web. Web 2 is about reading and also writing to the state, right? Typically hosted in centralized databases, right? On Facebook, Google, WordPress, etc. And we're now in this curious era of Web 3, where the data is hosted on blockchains, where it's read, write, execute, or some might call read, write, own, right? So as a property of that, Web3 is open, trustless, permissionless, composable, right? So we see all these when you're doing smart contracts and we're writing, we're learning protocols. We see all these characteristics. And the trend right now, as you guys have already seen, is that by 2025, there will be millions of critical information on public blockchains. There will be dozens of single-use and multi-use blockchains, right? Even Polygon is launching its app chains, right? Which it calls, I believe, Supernet, or is that for Avalanche? I can never remember which is which, but they're both launching these app chains, and which will power thousands of applications. We are seeing it, mainly in finance, mainly in NFTs, but you know what they say about bear markets? It is the time where the fragmentation that has happened starts consolidating, and then we'll see a next generation of Web3 applications that grow out of this bear market. They will really embed itself deeply into the social fabric. And of course, there'll be lots and lots of users on chain. So with this kind of vision, there are certain like data challenges, as you guys probably have already experienced, right? The first one is the blockchain, because of its design, it is typically, when you query data from it, it typically is a point query kind of method, right? You call a function, you get one piece of data, right? Which is all right if you want to build a dApp and you want to know what's the state of this particular piece of information on chain. But it is not all right if you want to find out a more macro perspective when you need aggregated data across many different blockchains, for instance, right? The SQL code sometimes is very complicated to write. And most of the time, we're just interested in the same things, right? Transactions, balances of addresses, how much money is on contract, what kind of log events that emit out of this particular contract. Yeah, basically what's happening on chain. And there are many different solutions for that, but a lot of them are pretty complex. So the data on chain can also be very inconsistent, as well as hard to navigate because of its unstructured nature. If you come from a MySQL relational database background where everything is neatly stored in tables, you will look at on-chain data and go, what the hell? Like, there's like no rules, no consistency, lacking in structure. One smart contract has different kinds of emits different kinds of events than another same smart contract. Some ERC compliant smart contract don't even emit like an event, etc. All these kind of things, right? So that makes kind of like analyzing what's going on chain very difficult. And also when you're trying to build something with that kind of data, it's quite difficult as well. And if you want to get historical archival data, right? Sometimes you need to spin up your own full archive nodes, which goes up to it takes up to gigabytes of storage, right? Terabytes sometimes. And it's just way too expensive for you to be running on your own laptop. So these are all the data challenges. So where we see ourselves is that blockchains themselves produce the data, which are stored in nodes. And we see ourselves as this data layer that enable you to get access neatly packaged data, right? Full archival data across multiple chains that will power your applications. So the Covalent API, we are a single API. That means we believe in a standardized kind of query approach where all you're doing to get data across different chains is to change the chain ID in your query string. And I'll show you in a bit, right? And then you get a standardized kind of response format that you can kind of run into your applications. You can run it, from the browser. You can run it from Google Sheets. You can run it from Node, from your code. Many different environments for you to run it. You don't necessarily need to know code to be able to run it. We have this analyst mode that allows you to straight away download the CSV and Google Sheets format. And so, yeah, enables you to get rich multi-chain data in a matter of minutes. You don't have to spin up your own kind of nodes. You don't have to learn how the data is being configured in this other kind of protocol. All this is being done for you. One more thing before I move on about the project demos and a demonstration of our product, which is we are moving towards a universal decentralized data model for multi-chain indexing and querying. What does this mean, right? Covalent started as a centralized company, and then after that, in line with the ethics of Web3, we felt that it was necessary for us to move towards progressive decentralization. So right now, the Covalent network is live, and we're getting on more and more validator nodes to serve those queries, to run those JSON RPC nodes that powers our basically core product, right? And I think as of now, we are seeing gradual and progressive success. And of course, Web3, it's tied to a token as well. And the value of our token CQT is derived from the utility of this network model that serves the data to our customers. So without going too in depth, this is the overall architecture of this covalent network. So our users typically are analysts or devs. All right, so how do you get started, right? Well, first of all, you go to our doc site, or actually, let's go to our API reference site first. And just gonna go here. As you can see here, we have two different categories of endpoints. Class A endpoints returns you the most important data that you probably want to know within a particular blockchain, right? And when we say cross-chain, that means we support all these chains. So, just by changing the chain ID, for instance, you could get the balances of an address on RSK. You could get the NFT information of on FMOS, right? For instance, or Polygon, right? So let's take a look at what this does. Balances, get token balances for address. One of our most popular endpoints. Right now, how do you get the balance of one address? For instance, using web3.js or ethers.js. You supply the contract API, you need to find the contract address, right? And then you supply the API, and then you make a call to the function balance off on the token itself, supplying the address of the wallet, right? So, that's super tedious. What we want to know is like, hey, I've got this, I'm a user, I've got a wallet address, let's say ABC, right? Why don't I just put my wallet address ABC into this endpoint, and it'll give me all my holdings. No need for me to find out what's the contract address of DAI or whatever. No need for me to deal with ABIs, right? So this one is a really popular one that solves a very pragmatic function given the current limitations of things. Another one that's pretty popular, historical portfolio value over time. You just need one address and it'll return you what's your holdings over time, right? And sometimes you want to check the trading patterns of whales. You know this whale address, or you know this smart money address, and you put it in, and it'll let you know what this, it'll give you quite a good historical data, right, on that. So this one, popular for building the kind of like transaction pages on wallets, where you just, key in one address and then gives you all your token transfers, ERC20 token transfers. And get token holders as of any block height. This applies for NFTs as well. Let's say you want to find out on block 2 million, right? And assuming that's like 1 year ago, right? On block 2 million, what is the number of people that have held Bored Apes? You can answer that question with this. Yeah, so it's a really powerful kind of like historical tool for you to either research with or use in your application. So within NFTs, we've got a couple of useful ones. This, for instance, you've got a Bored Ape address. You want to find out, oh, what are the transactions made on the Bored Apes collection? Use this one, right? And then you want to find out the information of all the token IDs within a contract. You use this one. And you want to find out more about the external metadata, like for instance, what's the image URL, what is the text description, right? Used for making, like the OpenSea pages where you have, oh, this is the NFT collection, and then this is the description text, this is the official name, this is this is the image itself. So you use that one. All those are considered external metadata. And the reason why they're external metadata is because they're typically stored in IPFS or some other kind of like server, depending on which NFT collection you're talking about. Yeah, So, and then we have all these like transaction-based endpoints, and we also have this endpoint is very useful. It'll give you all the log events emitted by a single contract, right? You can see how this is really interesting if you want to look at the kind of like interactions that don't fall into any of these categories. All right. So yeah, that basically covers our class A endpoints. And I'm just gonna try to run a typical response and for you to see what it looks like. Oh gosh. So yeah, there you go. Classic JSON response. And you see it's pretty data rich. I'm not sure what this particular query is, the default query, but you can see that the transaction hash is here, the signed time, the contract name, the sender address, the decoded log event. And for this, it is a vodcast event. And further information, right? This is the function signature, which is completely the same as what you see in Solidity. And then all the fields, which gives you the value. The value is the piece of data itself, right? Proposal ID, value 42, etc. So once you familiarize yourself with the response structure and what the response means, it is pretty easy to start using it in your front-end application. One thing about our API is that it's typically used to build front-end client-side stuff, right? So wallets, displays, dashboards, analytics. It's a way for you to get on-chain data without having to interact directly with the node themselves, right? All right. So class B endpoints, it's quite bare as of now. We used to have more endpoints, but I think they were down for maintenance. This one is very useful to get DEXs data. XY equals to K, the constant product formula, to get the information pertaining to DEXs. For instance, in Uniswap, you want to find out what are the pools in Uniswap, right? You use this one. And these are the DEXs that we support for each of the chain, which means that if you query this endpoint, you'll be able to get, the pools in all of these protocols within a particular layer 1. Oh, we support layer 2 as well, actually. Arbitrum, but I don't think it's out at the moment. Yeah, but we're definitely expanding towards layer 2 and also app chains. So app chains is quite big with us at the moment. And given its early kind of development, I think it'll still take some time for us to develop our compatibilities with those. So yeah, there you go. Covalent API. Try it for yourself, right? You can get an API key and then it's free to use. There's a rate limit of 5 requests per second, which is good enough for building a small size application. And we will eventually be kind of like opening up a pricing model which will enable you to scale your application. So that will come somewhere Q3, perhaps Q4 of this year. But for now, it's definitely good enough to try it, maybe get your app into production even, and then you can contact us and we can see if we can come up with some kind of pricing that is in line with the needs of your app calls. All right, the last bit, which is what I want to share with you guys, is just some kind of examples of what has been built in recent hackathons. So you can see like, yeah, what people build with this. So this one is like a chain explorer, right? Like using our API, you can tell what the last block of each of these chains are. I believe each of these is like a call to one of the endpoints. And if you want to find out what's going on Uniswap v2, I believe you can click here. And then it'll show you all the pools. What is the total supply? I think the numbers are not formatted that well, but it is live data that you see for each of these pools, and you see the total liquidity. You see the 24 hours fees that's been made on each pool, right? Pretty data rich. You see a 7-day volume, right? And you can use all of this information to kind of get a macro picture of the state of DEX trading. You see the number of swaps in the last 24 hours, the number of active pairs in the last 7 days, and the total fees made in the last 24 hours. So Uniswap v2 made 358,000 USD in the last 24 hours. And you go to this tokens page, and you see the further information on the tokens. I'm not sure. Yeah, and then you go to the charts page and you see this. This is built by Luis. Shout out to Luis, a really great developer from Dominican Republic that participated in the recent grant round 14 by Gitcoin. Amazing job. And then we've got this one, which is like a, sorry. So this one is like a dashboard, right? There's no data because I need to connect to my wallet, but basically all these fields will be populated, and it's like a visualization of your assets. And it also gives you the NFT market data, gives you the 7-day price floor, the volume, 24 hours, and yeah, it's very, very data rich, and all these are being served by our API as well. And one more, also like a dashboard kind of thing. Yeah. Oh yeah, we've got CQT. Yep. So I think that's about all. That's about all. If you want to find out more about the in-depth nitty-gritties about how to use our API, there is our Covalent docs, which is different. The API, what I showed you was the API reference, right, which contains all the API related stuff. And then the Covalent docs, which is just like our base URL/docs, it shows you certain developer tools that you can integrate. For instance, you can use the Morales plugin that calls, which is a wrapper around our API, right, that you can call as well. You can also use Primer as a way to shape the response, or like sort, or kind of like do some sort of filtering on the response object itself before it reaches your client. So this is just like adding certain kind of like filters at the end of your API query, and you'll be able to like shape, sort, etc., match, etc. So this is quite an interesting one to check out. Yeah, and then you can see all the different kinds of like projects that's been built using our API. You can participate in our community program as an alchemist. Like there's two kinds of like programs that we do regularly. One is what we call Meetup in a Box. My colleague Shantanu, he's based in India as well. He runs these meetups and it's very popular with the local Web3 community there. He goes around in different cities and he's like, hey, you know, let's come and like just chill and learn more about Web3 and be friends and network. So it's very popular. And then the one that I do is I host this like hackathon in a box, which I'm going to just plug my program for a little bit. We have a 2,000 USDC budget, and we're gonna like anyone can run a hackathon in their local community, like a small scale one, not a huge one, right? Like even 5 to 7 teams is a good one, right? You guys want to hack on a Web3 project, you want some bounty prizes, up to 1.5K of that goes to the prize winners. And then you've got some for the hackathon manager allowance, which is you. And then you've got some amount for food, some amount for swag, some amount for venue booking, etc. So you can just pull up a hackathon, a Web3 one in a local community. We provide the support, right? So that's the program that I'm kind of in charge of. And anyone who's interested, hit me up, all right? Yeah, that is about all that I have for you guys. I wouldn't be able to cover the whole hour. There's no need for me to. But is there any questions that you guys have for me? I'll be opening it up to questions right now.
Hi, Leibing. Am I audible?
Yeah.
So, does Covalent API support any kind of post action?
Any kind of what? Sorry?
Like any kind of post action, like mutable action, does Covalent API support?
Post action, right? No, our API is a read-only API. So that's the limitation that we have, yeah. So which is why like our product is mainly used to build front-end stuff, like just client-side stuff. Like it doesn't really do any post writing on the blockchains themselves. If you go to Morales, they have like certain endpoints, I believe, that are write endpoints. Yep.
And one more thing, like how does Covalent index the data for the user to curate?
Yeah. So we run full archival nodes, and then what happens is that, like, I'm not too familiar because that's in the domain of the engineering team. But based on what I know, the high level, what's going on is that we run those nodes, we kind of like ingest the data into some kind of database, and then we serve it from the database. Yeah, the classic model of serving data from like a relational database. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi. Could you elaborate on what makes it like different from the graph
Okay,
protocol?
so So obviously, graph protocol, you use GraphQL, right? And actually, because for myself, I'm not too familiar with GraphQL in the graph, so I don't think my response would be that helpful. What I do know is that our API, you just simply make a call from it's like a more like, I don't know, traditional way of making an API call, right? Like you have an URL and then you just make a call and then you get the data in the response object. Not too sure about the graphs approach actually.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, hi. This is Ankit. So
I
if I understand correctly, so the APIs are REST APIs. Am I right?
correct.
Okay. So it must be going through some central, central server or central system. So
Correct.
what actually makes it, fault resistant? Like the servers won't go down and we won't have, deniability of service.
That is the limitation that we have right now. Like I think the company saw that limitation and thus is moving towards like a decentralized model of serving the queries by having different validator nodes and nodes that serve the queries, and all these nodes, a lot of these nodes will eventually be run by the community. So yeah, but right now I believe like at least 50% or more of the requests are being served by, so-called like centralized servers. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, one more thing, Nitanshu asked that if whether the APIs are read only or write, to which you respond that is only read. So,
It's only read,
like
yeah.
any particular reason that it's read that you are not allowing writes, or it's just like by design, or are you going to support it? In later.
That's a good question. Um, I think that's a call that the founders and engineering team has made at an earlier stage of the development of this project. Yeah, it's not something that I've actually thought deeper about, actually, but I might after this call.
Okay, great.
Morales also indexes data. What benefit does the Covalent integration have? I think, again, I'm not too familiar with the Morales's like exact offering. Well, they did build a wrapper around our API, and so the fundamental data is kind of served through the wrapper, but it's being served by Covalent. And yeah, I'm not too sure. I think, again, with all these products, right? Maybe I'm not too great of a sales guy, but what I can tell you is try it yourself. And when you try the different approaches, you'll be able to see the pros and cons straight out, right? And I think different use cases will find a better fit for different products. Like where Covalent shines a bit more, I think, is really making multi-chain queries and the speed of the response of certain popular endpoints like a balances endpoint, where you really need to find out, the wallet token holdings. Yeah, it works very well for that. No worries.
Folks, any other questions?
I see a lot of XY equal to K type of m- like AMM market supported in the APIs, in the Covalent APIs. But what about, let's say, if you are going through some sort of like a beefy protocol, which is sort of an uh, looping protocol which loops over these AMMs? Do you have support for them also, or for them you will still have to like query the database yourself?
Yeah, no. I think we only support those that are like what you call Uniswap clones.
All right.
Yeah, as you can see here, like we support like SushiSwap, Paraswap, SpookySwap, QuickSwap. Like all these have the fundamental like architecture of the of Uniswap.
Mm-hmm.
And for the more complicated ones, I think the engineering team probably thought about it and then was like, yeah, it doesn't really make sense for us to create like one whole new infrastructure for one kind of protocol unless there's huge demand for it. So I think that's where it's at the moment.
All right. Got it.
Yeah.
We have a question in the chat. Any application ideas which are not properly implemented yet? Also, what kind of Covalent API based apps are more in demand?
What do you mean by application ideas? I'm curious.
Sanket, you can feel free to like unmute yourself and ask away.
Yeah, I wanted to know what kind of ideas are commonly used.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the ideas that are commonly being built by the API tends to be wallets, tends to be dashboards, tends to be portfolio trackers, right? And again, like all these are like read-only kind of like front-end displays. I think the integration into Google Sheets has also been very popular. So if you want to do some analytics about transaction volume, about price floor of NFTs, etc., that has been quite popular. Yeah. And then we see like DAOs, DAO visualizers that's being built, like in terms of how many proposals there are, what's the treasury size, what kind of treasury holdings are there for the DAOs. It is really kind of like across different kinds of verticals. I've also seen what you call like portfolio copying protocol that was built recently, which is like and this is a write function as well. So what you see is that they'll use the Covalent API to display certain information on their dApp, right? The front-end information, but they'll also write certain logics to interact with the blockchains themselves. For instance, with the portfolio copier, it kind of visualizes the portfolio of a certain wallet or gives it, displays it. And then using smart contract interactions, it just copies and trades it on some DEXs and allowing you to have the exact same portfolio with like one click. So that's the general kind of trend of how to integrate the API. There's lots of, but top three most in demand: wallet, dashboard, analytics, and some NFT applications, I would say. Yep.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks.
No worries. Does Covalent have any grants program for companies building on top of them? Currently, no. I don't think we have, but we sponsor lots of hackathons. We are part of like the whole ETH Global circuit for the rest of the year. We are also part of the Gitcoin circuit as well. So the last one was Grant Round 14, GR14. And so you'll see us there. We'll be sponsoring bounties. And yeah, we are very happy to dish the bounties out to top projects and to also celebrate the works on our website, on Twitter, and get in touch and see perhaps in the future, like we can support it in some way. Yeah.
Cool. Sounds good. Anyone has any other questions? Or
Great
if you do
questions,
not,
guys. Yeah.
or if you do not have any questions, no worries. Leibing is also the primary mentor at the fellowship. He's also on our Discord, so feel free to even reach out to him over any of our general channels that works.
Yeah. Shout out to my mentees. Hello.
Great. Cool then. I think we can wrap this up.
Yeah.
Once again, thanks a lot, Leibing, for taking out the time and doing this workshop. Pretty sure it's going to be quite helpful for the 4th week of the fellows. They're almost halfway through. Pretty exciting times going on, coming close to idea finalization and everything. So once again, thanks again for the assist.
And thanks, Aniket. Thank you so much. And thanks, guys, for coming to this little workshop. And all the best with your builds for the rest of this fellowship.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Take care, man. Bye.
Bye-bye.